What is good, YouTube? Warstu here with a video on the Eternals movie. So recently, my good friend Kevin Feige has come out and told the world that this movie is going to be really risky and it's going to be a very expensive movie. Now, this is a very weird thing for the chief operating officer of the whole of Marvel to come out and say in a bold statement recently. So what is good, YouTube? Warstu here. If you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe to never miss any of these videos. So this video, we're going to talk about the Eternals movie. Why? Because there's been some pretty interesting reveals. So Kevin Feige has come out and recently said that this movie is going to be very expensive. Now, I find this very weird, because if you think of all the movies that Marvel have made over the last 10 years, I've never read one interview where my good friend Kevin Feige comes out and says that it's a very risky and a very expensive movie. They didn't even come out and say that Infinity War was expensive, or EndGame, or Age of Ultron, or anything like that. Now, we know Disney is in flux at the moment because it's not really making much money. But Warstu, it is. No, it's not. Seriously, they've spent so much money purchasing 20th Century Fox and making this streaming service, this Disney Plus service, that on the day of launch, being today, it literally crashed. Loads of people couldn't log in, and that's probably why it's not going to be launching globally. So at the moment, Disney is in a huge flux, and they need to stop spending money and start making money. So what is good? So the main reason that this movie is probably going to cost a lot of money is because it's got Angelina Jolie, it's got Bodyguard, obviously star Richard Madden, who is also in Game of Thrones. It's actually got Kit Harington, who was pretty popular. Not really sure if he is now, but when Game of Thrones was kicking, he was pretty expensive to get in, and he is well known. So Feige said it's a big movie, it's a pretty big movie, it's very expensive, and we are making it because we believe in the director Chloe's vision, and we believe in those characters and what they can do. We believe we need to continue to grow and evolve and change and push our genre going forward. Well, you do, guys, because what? Because, you know, DC just pushed them all the way to the rim, to the point where Joker's probably going to get the Oscar because it is the best movie this year thus far. So also in the news, we've got a pretty big reveal now. I can neither confirm or verify what I'm about to tell you, but it is exclusive to me at least. So I believe the Black Knight Kit Harington suit, you know, the Black Knight suit, is going to be pretty pinnacle going forward, was revealed in a recent image. So there is an image on the internet that I first seen on the Secrets of Eternals page on Twitter, and in this picture we see what looks like Angelina Jolie, and obviously she's playing Athena. We see Cersei's character, and then we see what looks like a suit. Now, I'm taking this that it is the real suit. You know, it's the Black Knight suit, which is fantastic. But what is interesting about this movie is they are keeping it so tight-lipped. They tried to fly people in privately to Ventura, but they got seen. So it's interesting how they're trying to keep everything under wraps. Now, what is interesting is I've reached out to a lot of people saying, is there any images of the villain? Have we seen the villain yet? And everyone's like, no, no images. Although there has been an image cropped up on the internet recently where we see the Eternals members of this cast, obviously, presumably, once they've got their memories back and actually realize who they are, if the plot leak we went over last week is real, is they appear to be fighting someone, but we don't know who this is. It doesn't show us anything at all, which is very, very interesting. Now, you could theorize that the Celestials are involved, you know, because we know the storyline is going to have to do stuff with, obviously, the experiments on the sprites remaining after the status quo. There's a lot of stuff that we've covered before. I don't want to go too much into the alleged plot leak, but if you do correlate the plot leak that we went over before with the images that are reappearing, and can I just say, Athena's costume in this movie is playing real OG homage to the comic book counterpart, and it looks so freaking fantastic. Although she does kind of look like the Maleficent character, which is also DC, which is probably how they signed her up without anyone knowing, you know, because it is interesting. So you got to remember, she is getting on now, and she still looks pretty fantastic. But what is the best thing about this is they're fighting someone. I'm going to overlay some images now, and you'll see they are fighting someone, or it looks like they're fighting someone, but we can't really see what's going on. So whoever the villain is, obviously we know who the villain is, but they've not been seen on set, which is very interesting. Obviously with these film sets, they try and get as far back away from the public as they can. They block everything off, but you know, with how good cameras are, you can zoom in like 50 times, so you can get pretty far close in whilst you're far out. So what is interesting is no outlet has reported any images of the costume or the villain being seen in any altercations on set, which to me is very interesting, because I purposely go looking for stories that no one else tends to be covering. So it is interesting they're saying this is the most expensive, well, they didn't really say the most expensive. They said it's a very expensive movie, but didn't elaborate why. It's a big movie. Now, we know they were shooting in London. We know they're shooting over in Ventura. There are rumours that Kit Harington's currently in England, but I don't really see why they'd come back to England at the moment. So it is going to be very interesting to see why this is a very expensive movie. I am expecting a lot of post VFX, special effects to be done on this movie. Now, what is also interesting is I've said this from day one since they announced the Eternals movie, that the Herald Galactus, the Planet Eater, the World Devourer, the person that makes Dormammu look like a little, well, makes Dormammu look like nothing. Now, I personally think there is going to be some kind of Galactus origin story, Easter egg based centric in this movie. Why? Well, because it literally makes sense for this to happen. Now, if we know everything that we're going by, this is going to be technically the first MCU movie ever in the sense of the timeline, not in the sense of when it comes out. This is going to be set before any other MCU movie. Now they've got the rights back to Galactus, the Fantastic Four. Galactus can come through. He can slip in everyone's DMs without anyone knowing. He could have been there this whole time, because as we know, it's rumored that Kit Harington's character Black Knight will be going forward with the new Avengers in some capacity. We don't know what this capacity is yet, but it would make sense if this all eventually ties to Galactus, because we know parts of this movie are going to be set in the past, parts are going to be set in the current day, and it is really along with the Shang-Chi movie, because we know this movie is about immortal race created by godlike celestials to protect humanity from the evil counterpart, the deviants. We know that young Thanos is going to be in this movie. We know that Thanos' mother and father could potentially be in this movie. And also, Richard Manning did confirm in an interview a while ago, and no publication, no one is talking about this. He did say there is quite a few actors, big actors, that no one even knows. So the alleged plot leak did say we're going to see a young Odin, we're going to see a young Warstu, and we're going to see a young Thanos, like we just said. And it also said numerous flashbacks. So I believe that Thanos, Galactus will be in this movie, at least in some capacity. Now, you got to take plot leaks with a pinch of salt, but when you factor in the fact that Game of Thrones Season 7 leaked the whole episode word for word, Terminator Dark Fate, The Predator, Justice League, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, parts of EndGame leaked word for word, pretty much 80-90% of stuff was right. You got to factor in that a lot of this stuff could be true, which again is very interesting. So we did a plot leak video last week, which I'm really loving. These plot leak videos, they're so fascinating to me, because it is interesting how they say a lot of stuff. Now, there's been 2 separate plot leaks for this movie, but everything comes back to the fact that this is supposed to be set thousands of years ago, when the Celestials came to Earth to experiment on humans, creating deviants and Eternals. The deviants are purple-minded monsters, and Eternals are Themoids, gods with magical abilities. So the plot for this movie essentially is supposed to be that these Eternals somehow get their memories wiped, and then one of the Eternals has her powers still, and she's got to make them remember everything because they've forgotten their abilities. So it's very interesting. And I do really think this is going to be a really deep MC movie. And I don't believe that a lot of people will understand it if it is all about getting access to the Ebony Sword. And, you know, instead of like the Tomb Fulfillment, Cersei's wish, it was granted by a sprite since she asked first. She was tried, but being treated like a kid. So it's essentially a character in this movie tries to get a wish. She gets tricked, and essentially all the Eternals lose their powers, and this one Eternal has to go around the world remembering them who they are. So it is going to be essentially interesting, and essentially they all become humans, which they're not humans, they're Themoids. So it is very interesting. I will leave both the leaks down below if you want to talk, if you want to go over them. I do believe this movie could have the Herald Galactus in some capacity, but I don't really believe they're going to rush this. So like always, guys, please like, subscribe, and comment, and I will catch you in another video very soon. Catch you later.